Press record and you may begin.
Thank you, Jackie. Welcome, everyone. My name is Regence Norwoods. At today's workshop, I'll be talking about how to become certified with the City of Chicago. I am a senior certification officer with the Department of Procurement Services, and one of the things that I do is review certification applications. And this workshop will discuss the application process and what to expect. So the Department of Procurement Services is the contracting authority for the procurement of goods and services for the City of Chicago. We work together as a team and with our customers to guarantee an open, fair, and timely process by establishing, communicating, and enforcing superior business practices. The City of Chicago has 6 certification programs. The MBE, which is Minority-Owned Business Enterprise, WBE, which is the Women-Owned Business Enterprise, VBE, Veteran-Owned Business Enterprise, BEPD, which is Businesses Owned by People with Disabilities. Those first 4 programs are our local programs. The last 2, which is the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise and the Airport Concessions Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, are our 2 federal certification programs. What we do, DPS is committed to providing information, resources, and tools to assist you in your efforts to compete for City of Chicago contracting opportunities. We accept new applications for certification. We review no change affidavits, and we also accept and review recertification applications every 5 years for the local program. There isn't currently a recertification application process for the federal programs. We also have a contract compliance unit, and what they do, they review negotiated contractual participation goals. So generally for most contracts, there are participation goals, whether it's for the federal or the local programs, and they ensure the compliance to the contract. We also set standards for contract participation for the local and the federal programs. We assist vendors through our websites. So the procurement website is listed here, cityofchicago.org/procurement, and the online application can be found at chicago.mwdbe.com. So that's an important website once you are ready to begin the process to start your online application. There's several benefits for certification. One is that it provides visibility. So once your firm is certified, you're listed in a directory which is accessible to the general public. There are minority, women, veteran, and disadvantaged business participation goals on City of Chicago projects and sister agencies. So there are sister agencies such as Chicago Public Schools, Chicago Housing Authority, that also accept the City of Chicago certification on their contracts. There are also businesses in the private sector that seek out certified firms for products and or services. The City of Chicago also has a target market program which provides exclusive bidding to certified minority and women-owned businesses. This allows the certified business to take 100% of the contract because there's no subcontractor goals associated with the project. So the qualifying groups include African Americans, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, women, veterans, persons with disabilities, and other individuals who can prove social and economic disadvantage. So you'll learn later that the majority owner of the firm needs to qualify for one of the groups in order to be certified. Veteran-owned business enterprise. So veteran in this definition means a person who has served in the United States Armed Forces and was discharged or separated under not dishonorable conditions. In other words, you would have to prove that you were honorably discharged. And in the DB 214 and or DB 215, that would be the supporting evidence documentation that we would require you to submit. If you do not have your DB 214 or 215, you can contact the Veterans Administration and obtain that. So certification requirements include that your business is a local business for the local program, the principal place of the business and the majority of full-time workforce needs to be located in Cook County, DuPage, Kane, Lake, McHenry, or Will. That applies to the MBE program, WBE, VBE, and BEPD, our local program. For the DBE, ACDBE, the local business or the principal place of business can be anywhere in Illinois. Again, 51% owned, controlled, and managed by a minority, women, veteran, and or person with a disability. Or for the DBE and ACDBE program, which is the federal programs, that person needs to be socially, the majority owner needs to be socially or economically disadvantaged. There is a business size standard. So for the local programs, gross receipts for the firm must not exceed an average over 3 years of $41 million for non-construction firms. For construction firms, they're subject to the SBA size standard, which is average over 5 years. So for example, if you're an electrical firm, the SBA size standard for the electrical contractors is 16.5 million currently. So we would compare that average over 5 years to the firm's gross receipts. So it's pretty significant unless you're making over, 16.5 for an electrical firm, for example, or 41 million for non-construction firms, you would qualify as a small business. DBE, the gross receipts is subject to SBA size standards, which is similar to the construction firms for local programs. But that numbers average over 3 years. And it's not to exceed 26.29 million. So it would really be the lesser of, for example, an electrical DBE firm of 16.5 million compared to the 26.29 million. So we would compare it to the lesser of the two, which is 16.5 million. ACDBE is not to exceed 56.42 million average over 3 years for most firms. I mean, there are some exceptions. So that's the business size standard requirement. And there's also a personal net worth standard. So for the local programs, the threshold applies only to construction companies, and it's currently $2,379,729.54. So this is the P&W, and it's evaluated annually for the local firms, for the local construction firms. For the DBE ACDBE program, the threshold applies to all people seeking certification and is currently 1.32 million. And this is adjusted periodically by the U.S. Department of Transportation. And so for the calculation, it's basically your personal net worth, your assets, excluding the value of your primary residence and interest in the certified firm. So you would take your assets minus your liabilities to get your personal net worth, excluding your primary residence and the interest in the firm, plus the respective mortgage and that for your residence, primary residence. So the next few slides, we'll talk about businesses that qualify. It's basically the business structure. Sole proprietors, we certify sole proprietors, and this is typically owned by only one person, which has no legal existence apart from the person, him or herself. Sole proprietors must submit assumed name certificates if it's operating in a name other than their own. So example, if I have a company and it's, ABC company and not Regents Norwoods, I would need to have an assumed name certificate. For general partnership, that is 2 or more people that go into business, and they go into business together and there aren't any formalities. There should be a partnership agreement, which you should be able to provide. Corporations. A corporation is treated as an entity completely separate from its shareholders. It allows others to invest in the business without being liable for the debts of that business. For corporations, we look to see if your firm is in good standing with the Secretary of State. We ask for articles of incorporation, certificates of incorporation, bylaws of corporation, copies of all stock certificates issued, the front and the back. I also ask for stock ledgers. I believe the application will also request it, and meeting minutes. For limited partnerships, the limited partners are more like stakeholders in a corporation. They are not liable for the debts beyond their own contribution, and we do ask for assumed name certification or certificate of limited partnership. Limited liability companies are partnerships that have a managing member or partner, and we ask for an operating agreement and articles of organization. The next 3 slides will talk about suppliers, distributors, and brokers. So a supplier must be a regular dealer, which is a firm that owns, operates, or maintains a store, a warehouse, or other establishment in which materials, supplies, articles, or equipment are bought, kept in stock, and regularly sold or leased to the public in the usual course of business. So if you're a supplier, it's important that you can show evidence that either you have a warehouse or a store and you have inventory or supplies and equipment and able to, in order to run this type of business. For suppliers, we do site visits for suppliers, distributors, and wholesalers, manufacturing firms. We will do an on-site visit. I believe right now we're doing an actual site visit, or if you're uncomfortable with, COVID, we do offer the option to do a teleconference. Firms operating as a distributor are identified as having a direct relationship with a manufacturer to distribute its goods and products within a specified territory or region. The goods and or products are not available or sold to the general public. So what's key here is what we look at for distributor firms are distributor agreements with manufacturers. So a distributor cannot provide a some type of agreement with another supplier, or get the goods that they're selling from another supplier, such as like a Home Depot or a Menards or something like that. It has to be, the goods and products need to be obtained from a manufacturer that is not available to the general public. And so firms acting as a broker for the local programs only are not eligible for certification, but they can be eligible as a non-stocking distributor or broker for the federal programs. A broker in this definition is a person or entity that fills orders by purchasing or receiving supplies from a third-party supplier, again, like a Home Depot or Menards, or online, rather than out of its own existing inventory, and provides no substantial service other than acting as a conduit between his or her supplier and his or her customer. They are considered a broker. So for example, like if you're ordering supplies for your customer from again, a Home Depot, and having it shipped directly to your customer, that's drop shipping, you would not qualify for the local programs. Again, our online application, our process is online, and the applications can be submitted at www.chicago.mwdbe.com. There is an application fee for the local programs, except for the BEPD program, and there is no fee for the federal programs, which is the DBE and ACDBE program. So upon submission of the application, you'll receive an emailed invoice. So we will not review your application until you pay the $250 fee. So I just want to clarify, because we get a lot of these questions. So once you submit your application, it'll go through an intake process, and somebody will review it at a high level to see if anything is missing. And if something's missing, you'll receive it back. It'll be returned, and you'll have the opportunity to resubmit it. And then once that person receives your application, then you'll receive an invoice, and then you'll have so many days to pay it. And then once you do pay it, it will be assigned to a certification officer for review. You can pay at any of the city payment centers or online, and there is instruction on the invoice of how to pay. So in the application, there's several documents that we need, and information that's needed. So we want to ensure that your contact information is current. So especially your email address and your mailing address and your phone number. On your certification, again, we have the federal programs and the local programs. If you're applying for example, the MBE and the WBE, or a minority and a woman, you want to select those two certification options in the one application. If you also want to apply for the federal programs, the DBE or ACDBE, you're going to apply for that separately. So two similar applications, but two separate applications. For the BEPD program, this requires a Schedule G form, and the Schedule G form you'll download. You'll provide the necessary information to the Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities, and then they'll send us, some type of certification that you are in fact a vetted person with disability. BBE, again, we require the DD 214 or 215 to be uploaded in the application. We also ask for ownership information, employee information, facility. So if you're leasing an office space, we need an executed copy of the lease. If you're, for example, a home office, you know, a copy of your current property bill with your address and your name, or you know, I've seen mortgage statements, things like that, proving that that's your actual home. Financial information we ask for, we'll talk about like tax returns and that type of information, and licenses. So for example, if you're an electrical firm, you would be required to have the electrical license, and you would need to provide that. I also want to point out, if you're a business and your office is in Chicago, check with the Business Affairs and Consumer Protection Department, BACP, to make sure that, you know, you have all the proper licensing, because that will hold up your application if you don't have the proper licensing. You could also check on their website. So other proof of eligibility documents, we look at resumes. We ask for evidence of executed contracts and or invoices, a driver's license, birth certificates, proof of equity contribution, business bank accounts, the signatory card, organizational chart, equipment list, loan information. And what's most important from this documentation is the NAICS code that your business is requesting, or commodity codes, whatever your business does, you need to, as the majority owner needs to have that technical expertise in those NAICS codes. And something about the proof of equity contribution. So that's your initial contribution into the company. So for example, if you contributed $500 at the inception of your business, we would like to see where that $500 came from. If it came from your savings account and transferred to your business account, provide those account statements. An organizational chart, that could be as simple as a drawing on a piece of paper of who is in the organization, what's their name, what's their title. Financial documents that we look at 3 years of federal business tax returns for non-construction, and for the federal firm, for the federal programs, for the DBE, ACDBE. We ask for 5 years for construction firms for the local program. Same with the federal individual tax returns of the majority owner. We look at 3 years for the non-construction local firms and the federal certifications, and then 5 years for construction firms. We ask for the 4506T. This is just a document that you can download in the application, and all you need to fill out there is really your name or your firm's name, and just fill in the years. You don't have to, and sign it. You don't have to complete all the other information. We'll complete it if we need to and send it. We rarely do. Also, we ask for W-2s and 1099s. And again, the personal net worth statement for construction firms and all new DBE and ACDBE. So what's next after your applications are submitted? Again, I explained that there is an intake process, but once we do receive your payment and it's assigned to certification officer, it can take approximately 90 days from the day that we receive all documents. So for example, if you submit your application, but we still need more information, we'll send you a request in the Q&A section of your application, and you'll have time to respond and provide that documentation, but the 90 days doesn't start really until we have everything we need to do a complete review. Your application is checked to make sure that we have all the documentation. They're audited, and you may receive a site visit. So I explained suppliers and distributors receive site visits. Construction firms receive site visits. All firms requesting, applying for the DBE and ACDBE certification will get a site visit. And trucking companies. Those are a few examples. And if your firm is approved for the local programs, your certification is valid for 5 years. So after 5 years, we'll talk about, the process of a recertification, which is similar to the application, but it's less information. And again, if your firm is going through a recertification, it doesn't mean that you're not certified anymore. If in case that date has passed, you can always ask us for an extension letter if you need one, if the letter appears to be expired. There is somewhat of an abbreviated application, which requires less documentation, but they're still audited. So if your firm is MBE certified with the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council, or CMSDC, or if your firm is WBE certified with the Women and Business Development Center, WBDC, there is an abbreviated application. I just want to make sure that you understand that it's not really an expedited process, because we still ask for a lot of the information to review completeness. So in order to maintain certification, all vendors must submit an annual no change affidavit. This is for the federal program and the local program. We have a little bit of different requirements for each no change affidavit, but all vendors must submit it. You must notify our department or division regarding organizational changes. So if there's new owners, you need to notify us. Business name changes, all organizational changes, ownership changes, and we require that be within 10 business days, even if the firm has moved. So you would need to provide a new lease agreement. And again, all local vendors must recertify every 5 years. All locally certified vendors must recertify every 5 years. If your firm is expanding services, you can request an expansion if you're not due for a no change affidavit or recertification. You would go into the portal and follow the prompts to get to an expansion application. The best time to request an expansion is during the no change affidavit or recertification. And what you need to do is provide the 6-digit NAICS code, which stands for North American Industry Classification System code. And the description of what the code you're asking for, and then provide the support that you have that technical expertise, such as an updated resume. Maybe you have some executed contracts that include the scope of what you're wanting to expand into, or if you need if you have a license for a new NAICS code, and you would provide a copy of that license, and any insurance if applicable. So here's a list of sister agencies and their phone numbers. You can go online and get their information. I just also want to point out that the city of Chicago does have reciprocity with Cook County for the local program. So if your firm is already certified with Cook County, you do not need to get certification with the city of Chicago, and vice versa. So you would be able to utilize your certification for like and bid on Cook County contracts and receive that credit. So these are the top 10 reasons applications are denied. So the ownership and control is questionable or unsubstantiated. It's unclear who is in charge of the critical functions, who's responsible, and the company cannot substantiate where and or how startup funds or expansion capital was initiated. There's outside secondary employment that takes the majority of the majority of the majority owner's time each day. The company is not located in one of the 6 local county regions. The point of contact did not respond to requests of information in a timely manner. Inconsistencies with the application's firm name among various documents, problems with contracts such as missing, incomplete, or not signed and executed by qualifying owners, or have no corresponding proof of payments. Required documents are not attached. This should say mandatory documents are not attached, or no explanation is given as to why the documents are not available. 3 or 5 years of tax returns were not submitted, signed as required. So there's a few things here. Just want to point out, if you have a second employment, a full-time job, that's okay. It doesn't disqualify you. You just have to explain how you're still able to run this business. Again, the headquarters of the firm needs to be within those 6 county regions for the local program. And respond timely to our request for information in the Q&A section, because if you don't, we give you at least 30 days in total to respond. But if we don't get a sufficient response, your file may be closed, and you will not get that $250 application fee back. And again, for the tax returns, please sign your tax returns, even if they were electronically submitted, because we'll return it, we'll request it to be signed, and it's just more back and forth in the application. And another thing, for the mandatory document section, if something does not apply, for example, if you're a startup firm and you haven't been in business, for example, for more than a year, or just started your business, which is okay too, just explain that's why you're not providing, business tax returns. You're a startup and it doesn't apply to you. So for anything that does not apply, just provide an explanation. If we have more questions later, we'll ask. And this is the Q&A section. Again, I just want to point out that youtube.com/Chicago DPS, you can find so many previously recorded workshops there, which can be really helpful.
Thanks, Regents, for your presentation. And we do have some questions, but before we start off with the questions that they have for you, I just like to say, for those of you that want to ask additional questions, I know some of you have already put your questions in. If you want to ask a question, feel free to use the Q&A panel. Put your question in while I'm asking her these so that we have them queued up and ready to go. And we can get all of your questions answered before the workshop is over. The first question is, what is the required percentage of minority racial makeup for a multi-racial business owner to be considered a minority themselves? Is 50% sufficient? One Cuban parent, one non-minority parent? Can you answer that, Regent?
So, the minority, it's basically, how you identify yourself. And that identification, if it falls under the minority, any of the minority groups, that's considered. So if you're half Hispanic, because your mom's Hispanic and your dad may be Caucasian, but you identify more as a Hispanic, and that's how you identify yourself. It's hard for us to say you're not, something that you say you are. So you just have to provide enough evidence. And if it's something that needs to go to the affirmative action board, then it's something that you would have to explain maybe in a narrative how you identify.
Okay, great. The second question is, what if the business is just starting and does not have an invoice or contracts? They don't have any invoices or contracts.
Yeah, that's okay too. So like I said, we do certify new businesses. What we would look at there is that you have some, maybe in your resume, you have the technical expertise, or you have the training in previous jobs, or you have the education from, other trainings or, schooling. You just have to provide enough evidence for us to say, okay, this person has the technical expertise to provide this.
The next question, the person is basically saying that they have an LLC with their wife, that they started a business last year, but they don't have an operating agreement. How can they obtain the operating agreement?
So I would suggest you talk to either your attorney or CPA, get some advice on obtaining an operating agreement. I understand it's, between you and your wife, but just to get something in writing is a good business practice.
Mm-hmm. I do agree. The next question is, if a company provides work under multiple NICS codes, what size standard is applied?
That's a good question. So I gave an example for the local business. If it's a non-construction, it's that flat 41 million, 07 million number. And that's average over 3 years. So if you're a construction company and operating under multiple NAICS codes, it would be by the SBA size standard. So for example, we talked about electrical contractors, that's 16.5 million, but maybe you're doing construction of bridges too, which is I believe like 36.5 million. So it ranges. It depends. You can list as many NAICS codes as you would like. I just ensure that you have that technical expertise. Don't ask for codes that you have no background or expertise in, because we will ask for we will ask for that support, and you may be denied, or you can request to withdraw it, but just make sure you have that expertise.
Good. All right, that's all that we have here. I'm going to give the attendees one last chance. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A panel, and we will ask Regents those questions. And I want to thank Regents for giving us that great information. Also, I want to thank the attendees for showing up today and trying to get some of this information, because we always say if you can't use this information, we hope that you share it with someone who can, because there is a lot of work out there. The city of Chicago is looking to do business with various businesses of all sizes, and with different elements of your business. So if you cannot use it at this time, make sure that you are passing the information on to others so they are able to use it, as well. And then, like I said, you can refer them to this workshop through the YouTube channel, as Regent said, so that they can see a copy of this. We post the copy of the workshops for this week on Friday. So this coming Friday, the 16th, I believe it is, this workshop will be posted, and then it will be in the archive for anyone to see. We have just a few more Regents for you. I don't have financial statements. My business is very small and started the business activities this January. How do I get financial statements? I entered my business financials only in Excel.
And that's okay. So you're a new business, you can provide that explanation that you don't have complete financial statements. You can provide this financial statements that you do have, and that will be helpful. I always like to tell people the more in the application, the better. That will reduce the requests that we have and the time frame for your review.
And does one's spouse, says PNW, contribute to the limit?
Oh, that's a really good question too. So when you're completing the personal net worth statement, exclude your spouse's share. And if you don't know how to break it up, just do 50-50 and remove the spouse's share if you're the majority owner.
Okay, anything else you'd like to add, Regents, as we close out for today?
No, I look forward to seeing all your applications come through.
Yes, because Regents actually goes through those and thoroughly as well too. So make sure that you have all of the proper things. And again, like we said, this, sometimes this workshop goes kind of quickly. You're not sure of things. You can always go into YouTube and rewind this tape so that you can see it and you can get the information. Rodney has also sent where you can get a copy of the physical PowerPoint. So if you want to go through the various PowerPoint slides and something caught your interest on those slides, you can go through those and get information as well. And then if you have any further questions, you can contact regents.norwoods@cityofchicago.org. Or if you don't remember that and you remember DPS.events@cityofchicago.org, we can get it over to Regents and she can get the answer for you. With that, I would like to just thank Regis for imparting that great information off to us. I'd like to thank the participants for sharing a little time today to get that information, to try to be able to uh, get things that are valid so that you are able to do business with the city of Chicago. Don't forget the resource guides, because that is another way that you can get information about the certification process, the compliance process, the administration, contract administration process, and, last but not least, any incentives and programs that we have that we can offer your business, or in conjunction with, if you're going to work with a prime contractor or anything. So we thank you for attending today. Stay safe, stay well, wash your hands, social distance, wear your mask, and hopefully at some point we can gather in our big forum and have our we still have the vendor fairs and the construction summits, but we can have them in person so that we can all see each other and be able to share information, and you can get answers to whatever questions you have live and in person. So with that said, I will say good afternoon, and we hopefully will see you soon at another workshop. Thank you, Regis, and thank you, Rodney, for uh, assisting as well for today's workshop. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
You too.